Reggae interviews. Word sound power.
Today we are truly honoured to reason with a strictly conscious artist, one whose message music has uplifted hearts and minds worldwide. The powerful voice of the singer who goes by the name of Jahmali.
Isis, thank you for having me on DJ 745. I've been waiting, first when I heard and see that we linked up 30 years ago, I'm like, yo, yeah. Feel good about this.
Yes, man. Yeah.
Yes, man.
Yeah. Well, I think that, you're known for your conscious lyrics and that sort of like unwavering commitment to roots music. You've been a guiding light for modern reggae music for decades, and I think for us it's a real honour to sit down and reason, catch up on what's been going on. It kind of feels like only yesterday that I met this little youth in the Hilton Hotel in Wembley, on the Inner Heights tour.
Sure.
With Buju and Morgan Heritage.
Yes, sir. I remember that, man. I remember that. You were there with, I think it was a group of you guys.
That's right.
Yes. And I think I took some pictures. That's how, because I remember some other pictures with the same, the same crown. And yeah. So I'm like, that's that night. I remember it was a really, festive, celebratory vibes, and you feel good, trust me. Everybody was like anxious to see us.
Yes, very much.
That was my first time.
It was?
Yes. Yeah. I couldn't believe that people were so anxious to see us. Trust me.
Yeah.
Coming from somewhere where I think say everybody could have sing, that's something where, for me, it's not in there. The fame and the for me, it's in the studio.
In the studio,
where the creativity and messaging go there.
Yeah. So here in Jamaica right now, you said you've been here for what, 6-7 weeks?
Yes.
Is this like studio time or mixture of?
It's a mixture of. Look, so Jamaica has been the hub. A lot of people want to say it's not the hub anymore, but I can't. I can't say that wherever I am in the world, the Jamaican is still in me. So if I'm back in Jamaica, then the hub comes home. All of us who, when we come back, this is where we get the most natural vibe from.
True.
And if you're going to put it out to the world, look, there's enough narrative out there, especially because me as a youth where, we on a frequency long time, if you stay in a low vibration, low vibrations, that's the kind of stuff you're going. So, to my frequency, when I'm not really out there trying to get in front of the camera and make sure I grab some attention, for the TikTok and all of that stuff. I still believe in the traditional mom and pop. I still think God is God, and as long as I know that He dwells within me and Him are the guiding light and helps me to do this thing, to carry on this thing, I think that being in Jamaica for me is like coming home to come and express that vibe to the world, because you don't want the world to see you coming from like, oh, this music is new music, but Jahmali is still in America.
Sure.
You get what I'm saying? Although when I'm in America, the Jamaican no left out of me. It's what you see this is exactly who I am in America, not change. Take off or put on, nothing. I don't fight the system. I've found a way through my frequency to rewrite the codes in the system.
Okay. I hear you.
Instead I fight it and get angry, say, because they're doing so much stuff, it will distract you. And there's a lot of people out there in the world say, the reason why them not say Jahmali, do you know they've a lot of promoters have reached out to me and said, Jahmali, when we ask for you, what people they tell us, and I'm like, no. They say you're rich, you're wealthy, and you don't need no money. I'm like, what? Poor old me.
But I think for you, music goes beyond the richness in that sense. It's about really connecting with your fans, the people, performing. That's the real richness, isn't it?
Yes, and if you're one who has that tendency to believe that it is that richness is outside of you, then yes. Because for me, it's the manifestation of all this work that the kind of meditation I have for years. And I see people in front of me, and it blows my mind to hear them singing my songs line for line, and for know that these are original lines and creations. However, really, what has kept me going DJ 745 is that this thing that cannot be seen or it's not tangible.
Okay.
It's just that energy where you feel. It's that passion. It's a zone when we go in when especially when I take up my guitar and say, okay, and a melody comes to me, you know? And I'm like, yeah. You know, so, you know, that's where the passion is, and the love and the wealth is for me.
It's for you.
Yes, for me, it's like, you know, you have a ever-flowing fountain, a spring, and you go to bed at night knowing when you get up in the morning, it will be there. It's just ever gushing, effervescing, you know. And you get closer to it and you can feel the effervescence, the bubbles that come on in your face and all that type of stuff. That's when we think about music, that's how I visualize music, you know. It's like approaching a fountain where I think also it's a thing that's in the universe, and I think you have your frequency of it there to kind of like pick it up.
Pick it up.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, it comes down to what you asked me, the richness, the wealth for me is to keep myself aligned, keep my frequency, so, you know, I don't worry about what happens tomorrow. It's just about the now.
The present.
Just all the time. And I've been doing this for a while. And you know what? It has kept me from wanting validation from people. Because, you know, a lot of people say a lot of stuff about me, and they make me grin all the time because guess what? I've been like a recluse in the music business, just observant in the background. I know people who don't even know that I've known them since I'm 14 years old. Because I've been in the business since I'm 13. So actually, last year is going to be 4 decades I've been in the business. Can you believe that? Since I'm 13, yes. I remember coming to King's Jammy Studio, leaving from Clarendon to come to Kingston at St. Lucia Road there in King's Jammy Studio. At 13 years old. And started to record with Sly. The first time Firehouse Crew played in the studio, they played to me.
Wow, that's real history.
That's real history.
That's real history.
You get what I'm saying? So that's how long, you know, we've been in it. So that's a passion we have for the music. It's been a part of it is a part. It's like, I don't know, I couldn't choose. I didn't choose it, but because of music, boy, I learned so much in life. I learned so much about myself. And I think that's what a lot of us artists don't realize, how close we are to source. And they kind of, so when you ask me about what gives me the happiness, as I say, is how you see it. Because some people, that's what I guess drives them, their ego, especially in the business. Artists are very self-interested people. So, you know, of course, it's easy for them to say, I like to see the crowd, I like to see other people respond to me. But for me, seeing that, you know, I used to be in the classroom, it is where you walk away with at the end of the day.
True.
It's like when I was a youth and the first time I see Dennis Brown and them man there perform. Me up on the heights like, oh my God. You see me I say? Like say, yes, them man you really a teach the nation. Coming Bob Marley, dead and gone already, you know. You know what I mean? So it's like say, yes. But you know, with naivety, we don't know, we never know yet, say. You get what I'm saying, say. But he still played that. A lot of, you know, man like them plays a role which I like to play a role like that to inspire people. And when they do check out my life, they will see that, you know, me not just attack it and not walk it.
True.
Me attack it like me walk it like me attack it.
Yeah.
That's what my focus on music, you know.
Yeah. I think, I mean, like, you know, earlier in 2025, you've got this brand new single called Lost Advantage.
Lost Advantage.
And it utilizes a classic Beres Hammond, Willie Lindo rhythm track.
Yes, sir.
Self-produced as well.
Self-produced as well.
In this journey, you know, you have your own production house, Roaring Ras Productions, and your voice just sounds in like great form. It just sounds like it could have been a song that you may have recorded back in the 90s, years ago.
Right? People tell me that. They were like, one of my friends was like, yo, that's the real Jahmali. I'm like, okay.
So it's kind of like, you know, when you say to me, you know, people say that, you know, I might be a recluse in the music.
Yeah.
I don't see that. I almost challenge that, because we still get to hear great works from yourself, like the single Lust Advantage.
Yeah.
I know that there's other things forthcoming.
Yeah.
The album that you put out, Pleasant Place.
Yeah.
I know that was the first album in, I think, 9 years.
9 years.
But
that's also self-produced. You know?
I know that's self-produced as well.
Right.
So I think it's just good just to see the growth and development that you're making.
Thank you, sir.
In this time.
Thank you, sir. Thank you,
that
sir.
album, I mean, you know, you had songs like Set Free Your Medi.
Yes, sir.
Talking about overcoming those hardships.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You had the strength of the Most High to guide you through those times.
Oh, God.
And then you have songs like Armageddon.
Yes.
Dancehall Avenger.
Oh my God.
On the Real Rock.
Oh my God.
And you know, it's kind of like, I know that people watching today might think, oh, the Real Rock rhythm or the Sleng Teng or something, are rhythms that, you know, people have done over and over and again.
Right?
But there's just something about your version on that rhythm that inspires me to say, you know what, I like what I'm hearing.
Yes.
And I want to discover more of Jahmali's catalogue. Past and in the future as well. That's what I think keeps you active.
Well, you see, I think challenges in life. You ever hear them say hard times make great men and good times make soft men?
Yep.
Woohoo!
I do.
So it's like, you know, so it's like that journey that I've been really through has really helped me. Personally, with my own, you see, a lot of, you know, this new age mayor stuff like first time I hear about shadow work and that kind of thing there, I'm gonna go and research it. I'm like, oh, but my shadow work is a different kind of shadow work. My shadow work is the love we have for this and the growth where I've seen that this, through the love of it, has helped me to overcome some of my own tragedies in my life. Well, not tragedies, but, you know, challenges in my life. You see me, I say, and I'm telling you, I don't know how many ways to say it that people are not understanding the power of the music. When people say stuff like, oh, music, like here in Jamaica, there's a debate about, you know, the dancehall music and how it affects people. We're not going to try to prove to them anything, because I know that on top of the music affecting being the soundtrack to our lives, also know that it is a cycle, just like the cycle of the earth. And I also know that music is a part of nature. It's a lot of things when we get to learn just by being in music. So what I look forward to is to put out some more of this great work, the great challenges that I've been through. I see it helped me to write better songs. It has helped me to be a better person, better than I was yesterday. Also, I think that eventually the goal here is to get people to understand that they should never give up on their passions and their dreams, and try to see if they could like be the change that they want to see.
Yep.
In earth. You have to be it. But me think too much we look outside of ourselves, you know, for the answers. And, you know, me even write about this, I sing about it all the time. Me sing about the things that come to me that the universe, the God has told me, brought me natural. El Shadai, I didn't write that song. It was an upload. By the time I realized, by the time the song came and it locked in, like in my DNA like this, then the second verse. Well, and I had to grab a piece of pen and paper. Fast to write, because I know I'm going to forget it if I don't. I was so scared. But from the time, you know, I start realizing, okay, all right, that's how it goes.
That's how it goes.
So, yeah, so my thing is to try. I've been an independent artist for so long. I have to keep on doing this. If you don't move yourself or move to things, then life will move you. And it may not be in a direction that you may like.
True.
Eventually. So So when people ask me what I've been doing over the years, they don't know underneath it, like they see a duck and water, but underneath it's probably as hell. But on top it looks serene and comfortable. But underneath
But you know, I think a lot of people sort of do go through that, and it's a little bit like, you know, we say that what you see on somebody's social media isn't always a true reflection of what that person's doing or going through. I think that's just us as human beings.
It's just us as human beings.
Yeah,
we are conditioned to be distracted.
Yep.
Always. It's hard to be introspective. It's hard to spend time with yourself. Some people are terrified of questioning themselves. Then think they may find out. So because as me I say now, you know, I feel so good to be doing this work. I know we can translate my understanding into the music.
Into the music.
You get what I'm saying? And there's so much that I want to do. I don't understand. I shouldn't say I don't understand. I think I understand what I stand for, as Bob say. You know, you have to know who you are and where you stand in the struggle. When you get to find out who you are, it itself becomes a burden. A lot of people feel say your eye open or you come into it's going to our, you know, wealth or riches it's a burden. A lot of people just see on the outside and think, say, you know, even the rappers said it, more money, more problems. You get what I'm saying? So it's the same thing. You know, me experiencing so much and have to push through despite the help I'm not get.
True.
And it keeps me focused more because I understand, I'm sorry to say this, when we look across the landscape, you know, who has just allowed themselves to be used? You get what I'm saying? And what can I say? You know, I don't judge. What I do, I try to enlighten. I try to bring a sense of balance to the thing.
Yeah.
So that this division. A lot of people ask me things, and I know a lot of stuff. Ask me about what I've been through, the people who have hurt me in the business, who have stole money from me. I don't want to talk about that stuff there because, you know, as I say, I understand the landscape. A lot of people don't have the emotional maturity to deal with certain
things.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I just leave it alone.
True.
My thing is, I want to really get to the place I've been trying to get to for the last 40 years. So a lot of people think I'm there. Nah, I was talking to Barrington leave his son. Big up Barrington.
Okay.
And he said, I was talking to him and he said, you know, Daddy told me, he said, boy, I'm still waiting for them hit tune. I'm like, what?
Your sort of early sort of like, you know, life and childhood, I think was spent across in Clarendon.
Yes.
Which is the home to so many greats, the late and great Kokoti.
Oh my God.
Toots,
Ernest Wilson,
Derek Morgan,
Freddie McGregor, Big Ship, Everton Blender. Oh my God.
Dancehall was your training ground when you were growing up in Clarendon. You must have been, what, 10, 11, 12 years of age
when I started.
First stepped into a dancehall. Share some sort of memories or reflections, almost 40 plus years on.
Yes.
Of what it was like then.
Well, what it was like for me. Remember, I tell people that because I grew up in a musical household, my father could play the guitar and he taught one of my brothers to play what you call the accordion. We call it in Jamaica, we call it flutina.
Okay.
Right, sir? See, we call it flutina. Yes. So I thought that everybody could sing growing up. Because, you know, my mom and my dad, you know, back in the days, them have a whole heap of time to spend with each other, so I 10 a week.
Okay.
And I'm number 9.
You're number 9.
So I grew up seeing my brothers and sisters, everybody singing, my mother and father, everybody could carry a good tune. So I'm thinking, you know. And then, you know, with all the dance halls and so around me, right at the corner of my street was one, across the road was, oh my God, music 24/7. So people always be walking past my house and you hear them a sing. That's Jamaican style. So I thought everybody could sing. It's after a while when I'm singing, Mr. head start turn like, what? No, you can't do it too. But the first time it happened was when I had a son named Santex in the neighborhood. On the dance hall, okay? But fortunately, I had already gotten some training from school with my school friends singing Eternal Father, bless all, bicycle cinder, drop off a window, broke your little finger. All them foolishness there, right? So we already were doing school concerts and so on. But what happened when we singing the dance the first time was because I was disgruntled with somebody in the neighborhood would like to annoy people. And we were there enjoying ourselves and he was just annoying everybody that was trying to sing and do them thing. So I took the mic and say something like, come out of the dance with your dirty, nasty behavior. And the place mash up. Me just sing with it on my mind, right? And from that, it's like, okay. Then a trend started coming in now where this cover versions.
Yes.
This is how I started to write my own songs. And since then, I never looked back. As me started running across other artists, singers and so on in the dance. And you know, we only have a certain amount of songs you can sing that are popular at the time. So you have some singers now, they know that me already gain a notoriety, right? So they try to come to dance early and sing out all of them songs there. Now, in Jamaica, when the crowd already hear that, they know I hear that again.
Yep. No playback.
No playback.
No sing back.
So I'm like, oh my God. So now, it's now become a challenge. It's who come and dance earlier?
Right, okay.
So it's like early bird catch most worm. And that turned into, so we have to start writing my own songs. And even that started creating a vibe. There was this DJ who used to buck up all the time in dances, wherever I go, from Central Elizabeth to St. Ann. Every time him see me, when I'm singing, and him know me gonna get a forward because he's been seeing it. So you know what him do? Fire him take the mic and hold the mic. As me get the pull up, so him just hold the mic and go so shove the mic up in my mouth. You get what I'm saying?
Okay.
So you hear the on my teeth and everything. I mean, I tell us bad man thing. I tell about bigger man than me. We are just teenagers. So I start realize that, okay. I don't have the muscle learning for certain things. So and I still adapt this principle to this day. It's like, okay, if this is a challenge, I'm going to do my best, but I do it not my way.
Your way.
I'm not going to do it the way y'all want me to do it. So, let's go. And so, I started recording. And I've never looked back. And when we look around to see that people, so many of my peers who can't find words or, creative melodies and rare, we know it's because they've never begun to train themselves to do it. You know? Well, I think that's what reggae music is about. Really, at the end of the day, it's about this raw expression of your emotions and what you understand about the world where you live in. That's what I try to do, Yeah.
Back in those days when you were taking your first steps into the dancehall, you were going by a different name, Junior T. Junior T. Where did that name come from?
That's a good question. So you remember I used to tell you that I used to sing at school, right? In school, with me and my friends, them, right?
Yep.
So what happened is, okay, so Cocoa Tea by this time now was really becoming prominent. We were just messing around the schoolyard. And everybody who could do Charlie Chaplin, who could do Lieutenant Stagehand, who could do Major Warriors, you understand? Because we all had our favorite artist. Now, I just started singing the Cocoa Tea song, Crying Time.
Okay.
And this is why the other day when he transitioned, you know, I did that little thing on, and that's the song when I sing, because in memory of him, because that's how I get my name. It was me who named myself. It was my schoolmates that would say, Junior T!
Junior T. Okay.
Cocoa Tea, Junior T.
Junior T.
I'm like, oh, all right. I mean, you know, I wasn't trying to sing like Cocoa Tea, but hey, you get what I'm saying? Yeah, and so it stuck.
It stuck, yeah. And
yes.
And that name then sort of stuck, and then you transitioned from dancehalls in Clarendon into Kingston.
And
I think one of the first studios that I think you stepped into was the great King Jammies.
The great King Jammies, man.
Yep.
King Jammies was at the time where the latter days of using the bands. This is why I said I would record with
the Firehouse
crew. These were the days when they used to do that, come into studio, and if you had a singer or an artist who have an original composition, and that's how some of the biggest rhythms were made.
Yeah. So this must have been what, mid-80s?
This is 84.
Just before the digital.
Just before Slang Tang. Trust me. Because I remember the first time I heard Slang Tang, I was actually in a dance in my neighborhood in Clarendon. And when it came on, I can tell it's like a seismic shift. Everybody felt it. Because before that, the selectors used to play different rhythms. And if you have 1 and 2 songs on a rhythm, it's okay. But they would select a song, song. It's the first time we in our dance and hear one song play for like an hour straight. We've never seen that
before.
Because the people were just going crazy when they hear the Slang Thing. And I was there too, like, I was watching everything, listening to it, dropped. So I said, what am I hearing? How we never hear anything like that before. And after that, it was just everything changed. We stopped going into studio to do that. So me have to continue writing songs, you know. So I think that's the way out, really. It's the creativity, and I think the co-creation of people's ideas of what they think and where it should go really are going off path, the beaten path to what the real roots music should be. You know, and I don't think the people them who claim that they love the music and have the ability to promote the music really look for its propagation or its protection. You know what I mean? Them just them a look on the bottom line, the profit.
Yep.
That's it for me. Nobody now say, you know what, we need to preserve this.
True.
You get what I'm saying? Nobody's saying that. And I see myself as a form of natural preservation of this art form. Because a lot of my peers are disillusioned. I've gotten disillusioned. And that's for the same thing, because you keep looking outside of yourself. And the answers are within. They're not outside of yourself. So I say, so this is why they keep getting it wrong. I just hope that I don't have to be a harbinger of truth for them on a level where the truth was always in your face.
Yep.
Yeah, come go on like saying the first time you hear this now, you want me to spearhead something that we are, okay, I can only crack the thing, but we need to rewrite the code.
True.
As me alone can't do it. I don't think us as artists, as reggae artists, a lot of us really take the thing seriously. Things like eat a food kind of thing, you know, and do as thou wilt kind of thing.
True. We talked a little bit about jammies. Now, around that sort of time, a few years later, you also recorded a song with the great Fatis Burrell.
But a
few songs. Change of Heart was one that was released.
Oh my God! You remember that? You know that song? You are a real 45 collector, man. There's a few people. I'm telling you, the first time there's a dude out there in California that played that song, called me, said, Jahmali, you know this song? And put it on and start playing it. And the moment I heard, because I've not heard that song in 30 years. And when this song started play, I didn't even realize when I start crying. Tears just start coming on my eye. And I'm looking like, I can't believe it. I don't know, cry, no, it's just something. Like, I meant to cry. Tears just start coming out of my eye. Like, wow. Because I remember when even that song too, I wrote that song. And I could have sing Tom Jones' song. When the night, right, has come, oh, and the land is dark, and the moon is the only light we see. No, I won't be afraid. No, I won't shed a tear. Just as long as you stand by me. So darling, stand by me. Oh, stand by me. Ooh, stand by me. Stand by me.
Wow.
Reggae music, stand by me. Reggae lovers, stand by me. Me there for you, a long time I give it to you, If you don't protect your advocates, you won't have any advocates. An idea advocate for the thing. Real and true. Don't let the outside, don't let MS, the mainstream media, tell you what is popping. Your thing always a pop.
True. Okay, so we had early singles with people like Fatis.
Yes.
Under the name of Junior T.
Yes.
We also had some early singles with people like John. Must Win.
Yes, Must Win.
Ina Burrell.
Yes.
On the Great Sarah Rhythm.
Yes.
Barry O'Hare.
Victory. X-Rated. Oh my God.
Labels. So many songs back then.
Barry O'Hare got me right on the edge of Junior T.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is what I wanted to ask you now. How did Junior T transition
to
into
Jahmali? I love the letter. I had this love affair with the letter. This kind of curiosity, because them say it was introduced into the English language we understand the 15th or 16th century. And then somebody said, okay, so this couldn't be Jesus or the J never exists. So and then we see Jah in the Bible, and we always know what Jah meant. And then now, a thing where I always, me as a youth, I consume a lot of information, over the years. And I've always known about the Empire of Mali. And it's one of the things where me always, so it's me as a young youth, I try to make my connection to Africa. You get what I'm saying? Through them. That's how I wanted to, that's how I think I wanted people to understand that's what I'm for. Not how to see me.
Okay.
But what I stand for is to remind you of who you are, where you're coming from, where you may be going. Understand how the world works and why it is working the way it do. You get what I'm saying? So Jahmali came about because love the name J. I love the word J, and I said I wanted to keep the J, and it took me a while to say what am I going to name myself. And it so happened that one day me have a friend that my father is from St. Mary. Though me grew up in Clarendon. So we used to go for summers to St. Mary. It's nice beach, baby. You get all the hills and fruits and everything. That's good. So I grew up with this youth. Was one of my age group. But for years we had a nickname for him. I never knew his real name. And just like in Jamaica, enough of we just know a man by a nickname. We never know a real name. For years, decades, you know somebody and don't know the real name. That's Jamaica for you. So, so he was passing by one Saturday morning. I was reading my Bible. My brother was in his workshop playing. He was doing this, and he was doing thing with him playing some sort of wood in his workshop. And I heard me him stop one time and him say Dave Jahmali. I heard my name right away. But the guy, when he called the name, I heard the guy passing on the road. He answered, "Yeah, Fishy Paul, walk." My brother said, "Oh, name, that's a damn name." First, me I find out say his name is Jahmali.
Okay.
That's his last name. And we grew up together from this. Till that time when we changed it. I said, okay, all I have to do is move the D and put the J there. You get what I'm saying? Where it came. That's how it came. But you get what I'm saying?
Because that name, Jahmali, it was around about 30 years ago when the name really started appearing on 7-inch vinyl.
Right,
and
exactly.
I think this is a good point to actually just let's clarify the actual spelling of the name, because I think that over the years, especially in the early days, your name I think was misinterpreted on vinyl.
A lot of people. Okay, so we have another thing in our culture where we assume a lot about a lot.
Yep.
Including the fact that people would think because them hear Jahmali, they think, oh, it's one of Bob Marley's son. There you go. But it's how that's a part of a culture, that's how we speak. All right. So when I coined the word, I coined it as a word, not two words, not Jahmali. So me just, if I had known, I would have removed the H then, but you get what I'm saying. I also wanted it to have 7 letters. It was perfect. So I'm like, okay, all right, Jahmali. When people, I've seen dancehall posts. I have actual promoters who pay me to come to their shows. I'm like, how can you do this, Bridget? Are you guys not serious? Okay, now the print the poster is Jahmali.
Okay.
You get what I'm saying?
But just to clarify, the true interpretation is 7 letters.
7 letters.
No spaces.
No spaces.
Nothing at all. And it's Jahmali.
Jahmali,
not Jahmali.
Not Jahmali.
Right, okay.
But people keep saying that. I'm in a bus rolling down, my song's playing, and the people in the bus start arguing with each other. I know not one single one of them don't know me, right? Because I'm in the bus, right? And they're arguing with each other about who it is.
Who it is.
And I'm like, oh my God, people are easy. They're arguing with each other about which one of Bob's son them.
Right,
that's
okay.
singing this song.
Well, I'm glad that we kind of set the record straight on that, because I think that is so important that the people that have been listening to music have that clarity.
And next thing I want to say, yes, clarity is clarity is my thing. The next thing I want to say relating to that, if because you're a vinyl man. And if you can remember, in the 90s, ever since we came out of the 80s, right, and coming to the 90s, I'm the first one who came on the scene with that name.
True.
And then afterwards, you start have Jah pop up all over the place. Every Jah where you hear that is in reggae music right now got their names from me. I've changed a lot in reggae music. Before me, every singer that came before me sounded like somebody else in order to bust. Think about it. You've been purchasing vinyl for a while. I'm the only singer who come out with my original style. Wasn't sounding like anybody. Wasn't trying to be in the vein of this one, because you get what I'm saying? So I flipped the script from them saying, okay, this is a Jahmali sound alike. May I have a name sound alike now. So this is how, instead of the sound alike came in, I brought in the name sound alike.
Yeah, sure, for sure.
All those names.
At the moment, I struggle to think of a singer that had Jah as the prefix to the name. No. I mean, we had DJs,
yes,
Jah Thomas, Jah Stitch, back in the 70s
in the 70s, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. There's a whole generation, like 10 years.
Yep.
Separation between those Jah and this generation of Jah.
Yeah.
So when I came with it, it was pretty new. As a matter of fact, nobody in the 90s was even saying Jah anymore. I mean, I like as a thing, you know, the way they like, you know, Jah became a byword. Like, Jah Rastafari. You know what I mean? Like a joke thing, like, you understand?
But I think that, you know, the time when you were sort of recording in the mid-90s is, I think, when Jamaican music was kind of going through a cultural shift where we had a rise in more conscious lyrics.
Yeah.
Some of it, I think, was penned from some of the things that happened to people like Panhead and things.
Yes.
You worked very closely with, I think, two producers that come to my mind at the moment, Bobby Digital and Donovan Germain. Now, I'm trying to put the connections together here as we speak, and Bobby Digital, you must have met him over at Jammy's because he was chief engineer.
I'm so here it go now. See, it's very, this is something I used to try to wrap my head around to say, how did it happen that all this time I got to Jammy's and I've never run into Bobby Digital?
Really?
No.
Wow.
I've never. By the time I started going there, Bobby was already kind of, I think,
establishing
himself, branching off. And Jammy's just have chemists and them round the left and them left back round.
Okay.
But, you know, so, and then Jammy's himself was doing most of the work too. So it's like, it's not like he I don't know if he needed Bobby Digital. I don't know. What I know is that I don't remember running, and then now Fata, one of the next engineers that was there, we used to run the dub room, and then now we as young youths are just coming out. Our joy was to be near her in the dub room because them they just in there you see the giant them and do the dub plate them and you get everything. You understand? So it was our joy that so if Bobby came and was there in the big studio working, I wouldn't know a whole day we in the dub room.
Right, got you.
You get what I'm saying?
I got you.
Just learning how to do, learning the craft from the man, from the veterans that come before we. Come in and see, and remember, these were the days, once the pin go on the dub plate, there ain't no stopping it, a cut straight to right there. And if it mess up, you have someone mess up the dub plate, man. Mess up the dub plate. Yes, brother. You have to come back and start and fat across. One team, man, come on. Be a man who does sit across.
Okay, so Bobby Digital.
Yeah.
Did you record with Bobby Digital before you took the journey to Penthouse?
I was recording with Bobby Digital, I can say, before I started recording with Penthouse.
Okay.
But it was on and off because at the same time I was still at Fatis. When Fatis found out that it's me that sang that song, he literally, I heard my brother him tell me, and he told me himself too afterwards. Say, yo, singer, when I find out, say, I'm literally cry, Rasta. Literally ball. I'm like, for real? Say, yes, man, I can't believe. Look how far we are come, singer. But he called me Milico singer. That's what he used to call me. Milico singer. Oh my God, the ball I was. Jermaine thief me artist. No, Jermaine didn't steal my artist. I had a management who thought they were taking me in the right direction, but they didn't. You understand? And that's what happened. Not with me in my career. So, Bobby Digital, we start work with Bobby Digital. Bobby Digital introduced me to Burrell here.
Okay. Because they used to work very closely together.
Right. Yep. So it's Bobby Digital who got me to sing for Burrell here.
Right. Okay. Okay. So this is kind of, you know, songs like Earth is the Lord.
Earth is the Lord. Victory.
Brimstone
on Fire.
Victory on the Undying Love Rhythm. Okay.
Man, you're well studied up, man. I love it. You're well studied up, man.
I want to learn a little bit now about that journey from working with producers like the great Bobby Digital, the great Barry O'Hare, and Donovan Germain. Now, I feel as though a lot of those recordings almost happened simultaneously.
They did.
Who introduced you to Barry O'Hare and Bobby Digital? How did that connection first come about?
All right, so wow. So Bobby Digital actually sent for me. He heard about me and sent for me.
Okay.
And at the time, I was partnered with a DJ at the time to a youth named Natty Remo. And he saw Natty Remo on some stage show just done in the place, and he was like, yo, I hear so that youth is your brethren, bring him too. And so I think that's how the connection came between. So that's how I got to know Barry O'Hare, because that youth and Barry were friends.
Right, okay.
I understand. So I think that's how the connection was made. So it's through Bobby Digital. It's because of the connection that I made with Bobby Digital, me meet Barry O'Hare.
Okay.
And Barry loved the vibe too. You know, I even recorded. I recorded with Barry before he passed on. I recorded a song with him. I still have a song. I don't know what I'm going to do with it. I still have it that I recorded for him, and he just passed away. So I rest in power, my brother. But you know, wherever, you know, that's how we met him. And as me I say, just us going around different studios was how we know who was. A lot of the times we know record for some man because they already have them crew. I think
the artists that I'm working with at the time.
Right. I think my manager got me hooked up now with Germain. I think my manager at the time, they saw something that they thought I could get some mileage out of being in that crew. So they brought me over there, and
this was when Germain was based at Slipe Road.
At Slipe Road, yes.
And then you had Gussie.
We had Gussie upstairs in the same yard, and not upstairs, downstairs, the same yard, and Fatis upstairs.
Upstairs.
Right, and so it's the 3 studio in one yard, and so all the artists in the yard, including I and I. But however, Germain already had his camp, and Germain camp was kind of a more elite camp, and you couldn't even go into Germain's studio if you're not invited. Like, you get what I'm saying? Fatis and the other studios down there were more for more the street youth, and anybody could go up in there without, not like anybody or any time, but you know
the door was more open.
Yes, the door is more open. You get what I'm saying? However, as me I say, you know, over there now where you have the camp over there, so now I think my manager brought me over there because let's see what kind of leverage we could get over there.
Okay, and this is where you recorded some of the early singles like On a Mission, Wake Up,
yes.
Yep, okay.
My lord, why you do your research, man? If you didn't call those names, I wouldn't remember those songs.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
So the actual energy working with the producer Donovan Germain, was there a difference to what you'd experienced previously working with other producers?
What's the difference is, let me see now. The other producers are more hands-on.
Okay.
Germain is a hands-off producer. Meaning, he will say, go in the studio. He'll have some musicians come in the studio and just make some rhythms for him, right?
Okay.
And he will say, oh, I like this one, or I don't like that. Yeah, so he's a more after-the-fact producer.
Got you.
You get what I'm saying? He'll come in and he chose the rhythm that he like, and he'll say, okay, we are working on this rhythm. I'm looking to put out this rhythm next month. So him start recording on it, right? So I'm start recording on it, and what will happen now is afterward now you'd come in and listen to songs and say, okay.
Almost like an approval.
Yes, like an approval. So that's what I mean. No, Bobby Digital now is a more hands-on man. He's around the mixing board, he's taking the voice, he's telling you how to inundate yourself on the rhythm, the approach. And we say, no, sing, you sing with the writing thing, man. No, don't make me just roll a voice, man. Just go around there and just sing.
Okay.
Bobby Digital was like that. You know what I mean, right? So most of Bobby Digital songs I didn't write.
Okay.
I just went in there and started singing.
Got you. Right, okay.
Like most of the songs I didn't like, okay. You get what I'm saying? Just go on there, I'll catch a vibe, so I'm just start make up lyrics on the spot.
On the spot.
And so you know how conscious, because when you listen to them song, it sound like sit down
they're well constructed.
No, but they weren't written like that.
Right,
Just
okay.
aware of frequency was at the time. This is why even today I could still do the same thing. And this is why nowadays I have in stock like hundreds of songs that I've written. Well, I want to go into the studio and make and just give my fans, but I don't have the support to do that. I don't have the studio, I don't have a backative, literally out here on my own. So yeah, so Germain is a more hands-off man. Bobby Digital is a more hands-on man. You get what I'm saying? When I was recording my album with Germain, it was just me and the musicians in the studio. And I was doing, okay, El Shaddai, okay, I'm a C minor, you understand? Yeah, and then he'd come in and hear me do. The same thing with Cry People.
Yes.
Yeah, My Rhythm Again, you know.
Do you remember
creation.
Germain's response when he first heard
El Shaddai?
El Shaddai.
Oh, I could tell you, he was trying to retain it. He was trying to retain his glee and his over the moon, but Buju couldn't.
Okay.
Buju full up the roof a blank shot. When him hear it the first time, oh my God! And that's how him started. That's how now the song "Mother's Cry" ended up on his album too.
Yes.
Because we didn't record that song together.
Okay.
It's not like we sat down and said, okay, Jahmali, let's do a song. No. I recorded that song and he came and recorded, like I go to the studio today, I recorded the song. I come back tomorrow morning and he's on it.
Okay. That's how powerful he felt that your vocal was.
I guess so. And he put it on his album. So yeah, it was a good look. Look, I think, because of the way the music, the different players in the music, and the bottom line, the lucrativeness of the business, a lot of times the gifts and talents take a back seat to that, because it's about the quick dollar.
Yes.
And I understand it, I do. It's just science sake for it's like what the Smithsonian do, or anything like that. I can't see why we don't have a preservation mechanism in Jamaica for the culture this kind of way. It seemed to me like there's an agenda to kind of just wipe it out. Like, okay, we're done with that now. I don't know who is making that decision, but somebody don't want it to continue. Somebody, somewhere.
But one thing we can't deny though is that the power and the strength of that song El Shaddai has uplifted people, nations.
Oh my God.
Across the whole world.
Can I break it down for you, give you two examples of how, I don't know, we not get too drawn out here, but I could give you two examples. And if look, I asked the people who this happened to if it's okay for me to speak these things when I have interview. And I said, what? Of course, Jahmali. Okay, so one man called me, found my number, called me, and he was like, Jahmali, give me your cash app. I'm like, okay. Sent it to him and said, hear me too. What dubs do you want? Was it dubs? What do you mean dub? Well, you sent me your money, how much dub plate you want? No, man, I don't dub plate more want. You saved my life, man. You saved my ex-wife's life too. Like, really? So let me tell you. I was going to unalive her. I made the plans. I was on the way to unalive her. Got in my car. Going to unalive her. And then your song came on. First time I hear your song, and he said something went like this over him when he heard this song.
Wow.
And this is in New York, and he's already on the highway, just got on the highway. When this happened, he said to me, the next thing he knows is that he became aware of himself because he felt people on both sides looking at him. And he looked up and him see people in a big car look at him so. And him look so, and him see people in them car look on him so. And him say, wait. And then him say, he realized that his chest is wet. And then he realized he was crying. This is man just going all out, right? He said he doesn't know how he got to that stoplight, going in a different direction than where he was going. He said he realized one thing. So he drove to Moody's. This is how long ago, cause my album just came out. He said he drove to Moody's, not even around anymore.
No.
He said he drove to Moody's and he got my CD. He said he went home and he popped that in. He said he not come out time also 1 week. For 7 days he was just crying. He couldn't stop crying. He said, Jahmali, I'm telling you, I've never cried so much in my life. But after that 7 days, it was like 7 days of restoration or something that I went through. I mean, after that 7 days of crying, I felt better.
That's powerful. That is powerful.
I'll tell you something more powerful. How many weeks? I said I'm here now. 6 weeks?
6, 7 weeks.
Okay, so after the first week when I got here, I got this call. Hey Jahmali, what's up, man? So even though there, I've been searching for you for the past 2 weeks. I called so and so and so and so, and I call them names. They said they can't find you. Something will keep happening. Over the years when people been asking for me, they tell them that me rich, me no want no money, or I'm in jail, or they don't know where to find me. My own colleagues doing that to me, you know, and people in the business. Okay, all right. So this man called me. It's a big man. He called me, and he called some other people to try to get to me, right? He said, Jahmali, guess what? So when I just got here, this must be like the beginning of April, right?
Okay.
Right? And he said to me, look, Jahmali, at the end of February, I just came out of a 6 month coma. The man played upon the radio in Miami. He's been doing his radio show for 35 years. He plays that era of music from ska right up to 1980. He say after that, he don't know nothing in the music business. Okay? So he said that's why he don't even know me. But he knows my song. You see, after him tell me all of that, he even called me back and crying, confessing to me. After him tell me what I'm going to tell you now, he forget one thing. He called me back crying on the phone, confessing to me that before he used to just know the song, but he never really listened to it. He've heard it, but he never really listened to it. So he's calling me back crying, telling me what a powerful song. So what really happened is this man in a coma for 6 months, he was about to die. They were about to give up on him. The doctors, before they were about to pull the plug, the doctor said, let's try one thing. I tell him, wife, don't you have a friend, something that he loves very, very? Okay, this is the item I got really can relate to this part. This man lives in Miami. This man is a Man U super fan.
Okay.
Manchester United super fan. Okay? Jamaican, you know. All right, well, listen now. So what his wife did was went home and got some of his favorite Man U
shirts.
Not shirts,
okay.
And videos.
Right, okay.
Because he's got this, he's a super fan, so he's got in collection. He's got his favorite football games. She bring them, come and then put it in the money and make it play. So, you know, so I guess they're trying to bring him out of the stuff. And they've tried everything. And he said, Jahmali, let me talk to his wife a little bit. Let me say, my wife, remember that I have this favorite song, which is your song. And she came, put the song on her phone, come take a headphone, put it over my Rastafari ears. So he's telling me what's happening now. This is where I get down to the gritty now. The man say me in one deep dark place, him being in there, I try to get out how long. And him wonder, how am I come out of this deep dark place? Him say, me say, so you're afraid? Him say, no remember about no fear nor nothing. Him just know, say, him in a one place that he needs to get out of. And he doesn't know how he's going to get out of it. He's been trying to get out of it. Okay. So his next part is very important. He said, Jahmali, all I know is that, listen me carefully, he said, he heard my voice and he heard the song. He heard the song, he heard my voice, and he said to himself, in the deep dark place, while before he heard when he heard my voice, he heard the song, he said, it's like him start get aware and say, wait, what's happening to me? You know? And then in the same interim he said, wait, I know that voice. Here's what he said. He said the moment he said to himself, wait, I know that voice. Didn't know when he said he know that voice, he just woke up.
Wow, that's powerful.
Yes, and he said when he woke up, because remember now, they were just about to pull the plug. So his grandkids, his wife, his grandkids, and the team, the doctors, the team, everybody was gathered around in the room. And he said when he woke up, he just heard this big cheer and applause, and he's like, what's going on? So wake up now, and he's like, he said, Jahmali, I didn't even realize that, yeah, I'm talking, but I'm not realizing that the words are not coming out. And I'm responding to them and I'm saying things right there in that moment. And he's trying to tell them, like, Jahmali, that sound me ear. So him say, when him could really talk, he was just crying and telling his wife, say, yo, I got to find that youth. So this is since I come to Jamaica. You know?
Just recently?
Just recently this happened. He just came out of the coma in February, end of February. End of February, yeah.
Okay, let me ask you a question then. So you've just shared two really powerful real life stories of how that song has impacted the people of this world.
Yes.
Sitting here today, what thoughts, what emotions go through your mind knowing that you've written a song so powerful that it's life changing?
I am touched by it. And I pray that more of this happens, and I pray that all the songs that I do, this is the time what I spent to do this, that I see it, that it really, each song will find its pathway to whosoever it is supposed to heal. I realize that people are not into healing. They're into opening your wound, and rub some more salt into it. Let's talk about the wound. How does it hurt? How does it feel right here? Don't tell us about that you're healed. Me just experienced it the other day on a podcast. And I was telling the people I'm not healed, and they were like, they were ridicule me. So yes, I want my music to impact people, but I also want to say to you that I don't want it sound one kind of way, but all I do is give thanks. I'm not going to say take no credit for like it's me, because I'm just a regular man. I think the frequency, my frequency is just there. Go up into the frequency and it passes through. You ever heard about the story about Michael Jackson? I saw Michael Jackson said when he wakes up in the morning, and this happens to me a lot. I be sleeping, I wake up and me get melodies and stuff. I have to just draw for my guitar. But I open my phone and show you a certain amount of recordings I got. That inspiration just come to me at any time in the middle of the night. Michael Jackson says when that happens, he's like, oh, I gotta get up and get it. If I don't get it, it's a frequency. If I don't get it, Prince will. Because it's a frequency. It's passing through. And I was just at the right frequency to pick up on El Shadai. It would have gone to somebody else in my mind. Because I'm telling you, I didn't write that song. I tell people all the time, it just came through me. And it came through me because, again, I was reading this book at the time entitled The Ancient Mysteries of Melchizedek.
Yep.
At the time, you know? And they were giving us all different explanations and definitions for the different names of God. And so on. So I think that's El Shaddai was one of them, and so I guess that's how it came in. And I was meditating on this religiosity of Rastafari, liberty, and all of that stuff. That's how mature I was at the time. That I was at the time just the scream. discriminating against my own brothers and sisters within Rastafari who have this kind of religious approach to the levity. And it's the most oxymoron thing ever for me. Because it's very contradictory because, yeah.
Okay,
we're not gonna get into it.
No.
So let's
Look, you've done so much over the last 3 to 4 decades, I'm going to say. Obviously, you know, you've had so many great songs with people like Germain that we've just talked about, Digital. You've worked with people overseas like Fatis Records, and I still feel as though we've still got so much more to come, not just in 2025, but beyond as well.
You know, I've never heard you talk about this one as a man who, you're from the UK, so I know you talk about the song that came off the album, El Shaddai, a song called Politics.
Yes.
And the line So Rotten.
Yep, Black Twang.
Ah, you're not mentioning that,
Black
man.
Twang.
Do you know that's his flagship song, right?
Yep.
That's his flagship song.
I still remember when that came out. I mean, your catalogue is too big. There's so much. I mean,
and I have not done yet. You asked the question. I've got so much more, and I'm just happy that I'm in a place right now where I think at leisure I'm able to do it the way I've always wanted to do it, which is to make the type of music that you'd be like could resonate with you and you'd be okay with it, knowing that comes from a reggae musician. When I was touring with Black Twang, and we went to Wales, Scotland, all them places going on, and all of them clubs that we've been into, some bunker avenues too, where these little white young boys come up to me and say, "Man, you're so good, man. What you doing with this dude right here? You don't need to be. Why are you not singing reggae? We feel like you should do more reggae." And I'm like, well, that's why I'm here. You know, that's why I'm here.
Yeah.
That's why I'm here, so you could hear. But you sound good. But man, oh God, why don't you do this? Why don't you do more reggae? And I'm like, oh my God, you don't know what it takes for me to get reggae music to you guys. So me I say, and they all circle me and be like, how do you sing like that? You know? So for me, I know there's an agenda against the propagation of the real cultural effect of the music, really worldwide. I think they do not want to accept that fact, but thank God says the age of Aquarius, you can't stop it.
Very, very true.
You can't stop it. And things gonna flip soon too. Where the frequency that Earth is going through now in a little time, you're not going to see any benefit in those kind of songs because it's not benefiting your psyche. So that's where we're going back. We're going back to the basics, a little more fun this, and I want to be on the forefront of it. Be it by myself with some of my colleagues. But I like to lead the charge.
What can we look forward to?
I've got some really new. I'm excited about what's coming up. I'm really excited about what's coming up. Told you I was going to put an album together, put an album out, but you know, I realized I have all these songs that I could make an album. However, it takes as much energy to promote an album as it does to promote a single, or more energy. So I'm like, you know what? Why don't I just do this year for a change?
Focus on singles?
Yes.
Okay.
Just be releasing some singles. So right now you came down with one of the dudes on playing, one of my musician friends, because this isn't been in making since December.
Okay.
And we have a song coming out we're working on called Big Sound. Big Sound, championship sound, wanna live big sound, don't test this sound. When me say,
okay.
London, New York to halfway tree. Biggest sound guarantees no victory. No. Good Lord, it's hard to see friends and family. Sad and slow walk down to the cemetery. Whoa. We slaughter one whole heap of them, 10 times 7 or 11. Send them to the memorial garden. Very last thing them here is my big sour wound. One ton chip sour wound, one eleba. Big sour wound, reggae music sour wound. When me say a big sour wound.
Something hot and exclusive.
That one hot and exclusive.
Okay.
We have 2 others that will be dropping before that too. One called Lost Advantage is already out there. So yes, I have another big one coming out. You guys not gonna be expecting that one. It's called Be Yourself or Rule Yourself. You're gonna love that one, you know. You hear that one? Hi. Never be. Free up yourself to be yourself. Make them go and think you crazy. Cause it no matter what I want, if you rule yourself, if you keep you calm, clasp your hands and chant a psalm.
Well, look, Jahmali, I really want to give thanks to you for sharing some of your journey. I still feel that we're gonna keep having these reasonings.
Yes.
We started this almost 30 years ago, and we're gonna keep doing this. And I want to give a really big thanks to Sister I, Nala for your music, because we've been talking on and off for probably over 12 months. Yeah. And it's just good to connect back with you again.
True, man. You know? And you know what I like is that you replace and represent on a real level. We're in alignment.
Give thanks, not respect. Bless up. Yeah, man, respect.
Reggae interviews. Word sound power.